Hi friends, Mindy here. I'm going to share with you today these Sharpie Creative Markers. I'm super excited to review these. I bought these from By the Well for God. They may still have some in stock. Of course, my affiliate link will be down below, but I also have an Amazon storefront that I'll put down below also that will have a link to these markers if you're interested. These are the paint markers that Sharpie recently released. These are water-based acrylic markers. So of course Sharpie has had, oil-based markers forever, but those can create a problem depending on what you're trying to work on in terms of paper, in that they bleed through and, cause all kinds of problems if you're trying to do something like that. I would definitely not recommend one of those for a Bible journaling especially, but they've had those, but this is water-based acrylic markers, and on their website I think it calls it like acrylic like ink. And so I think there's it feels like there's a little bit of a difference between the way these markers are and say a paint pen like a Posca, but they are great. So they come in 12 colors right now. I don't know if they have any intentions of releasing other colors of these markers down the road. There wasn't really a lot of information on the Sharpie site that I could find about that. And so just in comparison, because like I said, I love Posca markers, and so they have a lot more colors and a lot more nib sizes in Posca, if that is something that you know is kind of a hang up for you. These are kind of your basic primaries with a couple extra like teals in here, and then there's a black and white. So I have the bullet tip set, but I also bought the black and white in the brush tip just so I could kind of compare them just a little bit, see how they kind of worked. And what I thought I would do is just unbox them, and we will kind of swatch them and see what they are. One of the main differences between these markers, and it's actually kind of a nice feature, I'm sorry for the packaging, but is that you don't have to prime these markers. So if you've ever tried another kind of paint marker, any brand really, Posca's included, there's a little bit of time where you have to shake the marker, you have to prime it, all those kinds of things, and you do not have to do that with these markers. And I'm wondering if that has more to do with that like acrylic ink effect that they're talking about. But these are supposed to be there's no prepping or priming needed. It says the colors layer, so they're opaque, so they will write over one another. They work on paper, metal, wood, ceramic, glass, rock, and canvas, and they're water resistant and fade resistant. I have practiced a little bit with my brush ones on some different kinds of plastic, and I will say they do definitely write on plastic. You just need to give yourself some dry time, because it takes a minute for them to dry, but they're also really juicy markers. So I'm going to start out with just your basic white paper. This is Archer and Olive paper, so this is 160 GSM paper, so it's going to be thick. Obviously it's not going to bleed through here, I wouldn't expect, but this is the bullet nib. I don't know if you can, how well you can kind of see that. Not very well. But in comparison, of course, I mentioned that Sharpie, or that Posca has, a lot of different kind of nib sizes. But you can kind of see this is a nib size of a Posca marker. So you can kind of see the bullet tip on this Sharpie marker is much bigger. I don't have the next size up in the Poscas, so I can't really say. You might be able to get a nib that's more similar to this in a Posca. And again, there's, different nib sizes and colors there as well. And then these are just kind of, I would say, more of your sort of primary. This is more of like a corally red, I think. They write beautifully, but I can tell, especially on this paper, that it's going to take a second to dry. And so the markers don't have any kind of listing on them in terms of color or anything. And what's interesting about these, they do suggest storing them horizontally, but with the brush nibs, they do say that you need to, for best results, you need to shake them before use. So it's not so on the bullet nib, but it definitely is on the brush nib. And I'm not sure what the difference is, but there's also a size difference. I don't know if you can kind of see that. It's shorter. It's also more narrow. So you can kind of see the comparison there between, this is the brush nib, and this is the bullet nib. So let me just continue on with these very vibrant colors. And you can see I wrote right over that marker there. I know watching people swatch is probably not the most exciting, and I'm going to be very, very sloppy just trying to get this done. That's like a tealy color. I'm going to call, I don't know, this is maybe like a turquoise. We'll call this, I think it's like a dark teal is what they're, the thing, I like these markers, and you know, initially I do like how they're, the flow of them, but the nib on them is very, very, very thick. So, it will be good if you're trying to maybe like color in a big area or do some kind of bigger artwork. But you're not going to be able to do a whole lot of detail with the bullet nib on these markers. Because I'm trying to write as small as I can really with it, and that's about as much as I can do. I do like that they have a gray marker. Those are great for shadowing. I'm going to go ahead and swatch the white, even though obviously you're probably not going to be able to see that very well. But I do like that straight out of the gate, you can just start coloring. You can start drawing. You can start writing, because it is one of those things with the Poscas and you're having to shake them. But even the paint markers, the other, like the oil-based paint markers that Sharpie has, again, you have to shake them. And again, the brush nibs as well. So, for me, you know, you have to write pretty big to be able to get these, so that like the circles part of your cursive and stuff doesn't fill in. So it's a little bit more difficult, but I am going to swatch, just show you the black brush, because it's got a really nice shape to it. I don't know if you can see that very well. And you can actually get some pretty fine lines with it. So I feel like if you were wanting to be able to maybe write or do some, you know, art, calligraphy, that kind of thing, you can definitely do that with the Sharpie brush nibs. You can get a much, much thinner line. Obviously, this would be about the thinnest, and then you can get a really thick line with the brush, and then I'll just show you, like, the bullet is going to be kind of in the middle there. So depending on what you're wanting, I can see how having, you know, both sets would be very beneficial. I'm really excited about these markers. I can tell, especially the black brush, this is still wet. So you definitely need to give yourself a second. Even I think this gray over here, you can kind of see it shiny when, you know, in person. So just keep that in mind. This is not going to be like a quick drying marker. You need to give it a few seconds to dry. This is still here. And again, it's because they're really juicy. But you can still see, well, maybe you can't see, but it's still, parts of these are, you know, it's still shiny. So it's still a little bit wet. So just give some time for it to dry. I do have some black paper so we can kind of compare here. And I am not going to make a long time of doing these, but again, I'm not shaking these or doing anything to them. I'm just out of the gate. I wouldn't say that they're 100% opaque, because you can kind of see some of the black going through there. But I really like how vibrant these colors are on the black. It's a little bit harder to see the color distinction between the two teals here, but I really like this a lot. I can see using these in my bullet journal a lot, because they are, you know, opaque, and you can get a good, you can color a good amount pretty quickly. So, and I love, if you ever try to find a good white pen, of course, the Uniball Signo is always my go-to pen for white pens, and the Posca marker as well. But this is great right out of the gate. So really, really loving that. This is the gray. I just stuck my finger in that one of the teals. So I have paint on me. So again, give yourself a minute to dry, because I just stuck my hand in that and it was definitely sticky. I'm even going to do the black on black just so you can kind of see. But you kind of see, I don't know if you can still see like some of the areas, like this part of the blue is still wet. I can tell because it's still shiny. But this is just black cardstock. And then I also want to try it on some craft color paper. This, again, some Archer and Olive paper, just to kind of see, because it sort of reacts differently. Colors kind of show up a little bit differently depending on what you're using. But I'm going to do this part really, really quick because I'm sure you're probably tired of seeing me swatch these. As a general rule of thumb, I am a pretty big fan of these markers already. I can see, like I said, I can see using them a lot in my bullet journal. My bullet journal is this kind of heavier paper, and I am going to swatch this, or at least a couple of the colors in my Bible so that you can kind of see if you're working on thinner paper. And again, these are water resistant, so that's always good, especially if you like doing mixed media. You can do things over it. I'm very interested to see how these will kind of work and layer over other acrylic products, and also, you know, trying to put something over the top of them. That's just a lot of adventure for another day if you're into mixed media work at all. And like I said, it does say that you can write on all kinds of substrates, plastic and whatever. And so I actually tried, this is the brush right here, over on some like plastic packaging, and you can see it's dry now, but it did take a hot minute for that to dry, and that was with the brush nib. So it definitely will do it. You just need to be aware that it's going to take some drying time. If you're like me, I'm kind of clumsy and I'll stick my finger back into it. But I love how all of these colors look on this craft paper. I think that is really, really fun. So I'm super excited about that. And let me just bring in my Bible, well, one of my Bibles. If you're going to do any kind of Bible journaling, I always suggest, no matter what you have, like, always test your pens in your own particular Bible, because not all of the papers are the same. They don't all react the same. This is an older Bible that is actually out of print. They don't make it anymore, which is really sad because I love the paper in this Bible. It's a nice white paper, but it's a little bit thicker than your typical Bible pages. But I just wanted to test it in here because this is where it's where I test all of my markers, and so I wanted to test it in here. But again, I don't know that I would necessarily use this direct to paper in my Bible. I might use it on as a layer on something, or paint it on something else and then add that to my Bible. I'm not sure that I would go like directly in, because I don't do a lot of drawing, because I can't draw. So anyway, I just wanted to sort of test these and see how they do in this. Again, this is, you know, the paper is a little bit thicker than a traditional paper, which is why I loved this particular Bible. And so again, I would just suggest, like, you know, test it in your own Bible and see what it does. It's obviously going to look a little bit different on Bible paper that is like more cream colored, and some that are, you know, thinner than this one, or even like the illustrating Bible that's just a little bit, it's still white paper, but sometimes it doesn't take the inks the same way, or at least like water-based inks. And I don't know what's happening here. There's just a lot of paint everywhere, so I've already got paint all over me, which I think is just par for the course. I'm kind of a messy crafter anyway, but I don't know why that blue one is leaking everywhere. But it's not leaking, but it's just on the cap, so I need to clean that off. But anyway, I'm just going through here, just a couple more. Obviously the white is not going to show up, but we're going to swatch it for the sake of swatching it, and also just because it is opaque, so it should cover the lines in here as well. And again, I can see it, even on this paper, like this black is still wet, so you can see you have to give yourself time, let it dry. And then I'll just flip it over so you can kind of see. It definitely doesn't bleed, although where it was a little bit juicier, you can see it's trying to, even on, and this is, like I said, this is a little bit thicker. So kind of at the very beginning of the stroke, you can kind of see, but it's mostly just a little bit of ghosting, which isn't really an issue for me. I don't mind that in my Bibles anyway. But it's definitely, you can definitely see the ghosting shadowing behind there with all of the colors, except the white, obviously. So, and then, like I said, definitely give yourself time to let that dry. But all in all, I think that they have a place. I don't know if I would say that they would take the place of my Poscas, but I will say that there are some features about them that I really do love. I love that I don't have to spend my time shaking and priming and whatever, although, like I said, if you have the brush nibs do suggest shaking them. And of course, they are saying to store horizontally. So I feel like if they're taking the time to actually put that on the barrel of your marker, it's really, really important to do that. I tend to store mine that way anyway, but it's just a good reminder because you want to keep that ink saturation consistent. And so all in all, I'm really, really excited about these. I will probably get the brush ones in the color as well, just because I feel like they will do different things and you can get a little bit of like a finer point with those. So I will probably invest in those at some point. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to share that with you because I was really super excited about these markers. Like I said, I've had my eye on them for a while. So you can kind of see the difference between these two are the brush nibs, and then you have like the barrel of these is even just a little bit bigger. It's not uncomfortably big, but I don't know that I would want it any bigger. And it's even bigger, I think, just slightly bigger than a Posca barrel. In terms of the diameter, but not necessarily in terms of the size. It's actually a little bit longer than a Posca as well. So, and then, you know, some of the Poscas are even shorter, so you can kind of see the difference. Like this is a smaller nibbed Posca, so you can kind of tell the difference there in terms of the height, if that matters to you in terms of like hand grip and whatever. They're pretty chunky little markers, but these are going to be a lot of fun. So I'm really excited to get to playing with these, especially in some of my art journaling and mixed media work. So anyway, if you made it this long, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And until next time, bye.